And I went and did
Yeah.
one of these like uplink ones. I just stumbled upon it. It wasn't part of a quest, but I had like a data drive with me. And when I did like
Yeah.
a push the data drive into the tower thing and turn it on, and it's like super loud, like really
Yeah.
obvious. I'm like, oh my god, shut up! Like what? Because I've been playing all solo as well, so I'm just there like paranoid with my Scarab, which I know you mentioned before, but I think the Scarab's absolutely awesome. And I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
there
good.
like, oh my god, like everybody, this thing's going woo woo at the top, and I'm like, what on earth is going on?
Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast where we continue to focus on developing the game, passionate analysis, data crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I'm one of your hosts today, and I'm a video editor for a Tarkov YouTuber named Airwing Marine.
And I'm GigaBeef, a Tarkov YouTuber helping players improve their gameplay knowledge and confidence in Escape from Tarkov. And welcome back to the podcast. Today we are going to be going through some Tarkov news first, and then we're going to be talking about the latest exciting new game within the streaming content creation and player world of the cycle. But before we get too distracted into that, because I know me and Church have both been having quite a good time with it, let's just ignore how our week's been going for the time being. We're going to put a freeze on that. Like we're
Okay.
basically just going to have to really carefully manage our way around talking about it until the time is right. So the Tarkov news this week, I think where we ended up last time was the semi-auto change had occurred, I believe,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it felt really bad, like really,
hmm
really, really bad. And that was because when you were exceeding when the periodicity of your clicking exceeded the 450 RPM, that meant that your click would just be completely lost.
Right.
And so if you clicked just fast, if you clicked at like 460 RPM,
Yeah.
then you would effectively be clicking at like 230 RPM because every other click would be
Right.
lost and not registered. So that has been changed because that felt really bad, right? It felt awful. It felt like the
Yeah.
game wasn't responding to what you were doing. Now it's changed so that when you click, it fires when the next available shot is ready, kind of thing. So you end up clicking at like the max fire rate, which is 450, rather
Yeah.
than some like other rate in between, depending on like exactly how you're clicking. And that feels a lot better. Like I'm not like I'm not a serial semi-auto user. I think I said before I
Uh-huh.
usually go full auto, but I had a try with it, and it does feel okay
Okay.
now. You can't really tell. Like if you click really fast, because and this actually is interesting. This also happens if you put full auto weapons on semi as well. It also has the same capping. So if you have the M4 and you put it on full auto, I can click faster um, than I'm allowed to now, and you can tell the difference between the full auto version and the semi-auto version. So anyway, but it feels okay. I don't think it will really make much difference outside of um like super close up. Like I don't know, I had to really try quite hard to like feel like I was hitting the cap, to be honest, and I really wasn't paying attention to aim at all. So I think it's fine. I don't know. Did you play around with it or not? I mean, I had a go with it in the hideout, and I had a bit of a play with it.
I have not. So I have a question for you because my understanding
Hmm.
is that it queues up your clicks. Do you notice anything where like you stop clicking and then it continues firing?
So I was interested in this, and it queues up your click from what I can tell. So obviously, I haven't done extensive testing on this, but from what I can tell, is it queues up your click for the next click. So
Okay,
if
that's
you
smart.
so
Yeah.
if, yeah, so you click and then you click again, it's like, oh well, that click was too quick, so we'll then fire when the next available shot is ready, and then it stops. If you like click like 4 times or something in that, I think it
Yeah.
fires once and then stops. So I think it only
Okay.
fires once. It didn't feel like clicks were continuing afterwards, or it was like trying to carry
Yeah.
on shooting when it wasn't, or whatever. Because I did think this too. I was like, huh, that could be a funny um, consequence of the system they've put
Uh-huh.
in, but that wasn't the case as far as I could tell. It didn't seem to
Okay.
be problematic in that way. So that was quite good, and it feels fine. I think everybody's just kind of going to forget about it now and go back to the way it was before. So basically, like people's issue previously was other than just like it feeling completely crappy, which is actually quite an interesting thing on its own because it's like you can implement something in two almost identical ways, and one feels awful for the user, and the other feels like completely fine. Which is
Yeah.
like kind of weird. It's like so much of the video games is about like feel, not
Yes.
necessarily about like balance scientifically. Sometimes it's just about like feeling like how the game feels, and that feels really bad, and now it feels okay.
Yeah.
Um, And so yeah, that's I can't remember where I was going with that, but that is an interesting thing that I do think sort of highlights sometimes the difficulties with a complicated game like EFT. That even though you implement something, it feels terrible
Yeah.
until you make some kind of tweaks to it. I think I was going to say something else, but if I remember, I'll bring it back up. Um, the other things, I guess, that have kind of come out. There's like a couple of bits and pieces here and there that are sort of floating around, and some of them are quite new. There's the Daily Quest teaser that was out like today, I think,
It's
and
actually
that's
live.
I think
Did
it's now
you
live. But there was a patch. Nobody was playing the game. I've not been on before, so I've not seen
Uh-huh.
it. But I think there was two that were teased that was like what it was like an elimination one and like a fetch quest one type thing. I think, but no one knew the details yet, so I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But either which way, I don't really mind. Daily quests test or whatever it is
Uh-huh.
here, and earlier than I thought, which is pretty good. Um, we'll just have to see exactly what those tasks are, but I think it's nice that they've brought in some extra things for people.
Yeah.
And then there was another one, which was the TikTok that they put out, which was like a
Right.
scav just ranting about like an idea rig that he was building or something. But I'm not entirely sure exactly what that was about. I think that was about it. Oh, and there was one more thing actually. There's a leak about textiles. Not entirely sure exactly what the issue with this is. But Ragman is saying, and I think he's only telling people who've got level 4 Ragman. So I didn't see this. I saw it on Twitter. I saw Bake Easy put it up
Oh,
first.
interesting.
So because I'm not level 42 yet, so I did not see the Ragman message and
Yeah.
saying that inside information, whatever the textiles are coming up, and I have like a scav junk box like full of Kajura because I was kind of keeping it because I knew it would be more expensive later. It's cheap to craft. I was crafting it anyway because it's easy to do, and I wanted to use it for my own things, and so I've actually got like loads of it in there.
Are
I don't know
are I
what were
was
you going
gonna
to say. Sorry.
let's say, are you metagaming BSG potentially nerfing the Condora crafts so prices will
I
skyrocket and you're gonna
I
make a pro
was yes, I
I
was.
love it. I love it.
That was the plan. That was the plan because that I think the Kadura craft is broken. The four
Yeah.
bags for the Kadura is broken
Yeah.
because when it wasn't in the game previously, and I've said this before, but when it wasn't in the game before, it was genuinely like 60 to 70k, right? Because the ACPC barter is so good, and yeah, I was like, right, we'll just fill half a case with this stuff and see what happens. And if I'll use it or I'll sell it anyway
Yeah. I
if
mean, there's
if it
no
doesn't
harm
get
really.
removed. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm not using my junk box as much now, given that after getting to flea market stuff, you don't really need it
Mhm.
as much, and I've got all the hideout stuff sorted really, so not as much of a problem. So yeah, I've got like a whole bunch of it saved up, and I've actually got some, and this is also just to do the crafts. I've got some rip stoppers and stuff as well, which is kind of cool. So we'll see where the price goes for that. I don't know what outlet that's going to have in terms of pricing. Because the price is going to go up, but why? Other than everybody just like driving the price up, I don't really know. Like, what are you gonna? Is this Ragman gonna buy it for like 100k a piece? I don't know, because like all the crafting components have gone up because everyone's going oh textiles, but nothing's actually happened. Like, where's the scarcity actually appearing from? They
I
didn't remove the
mean,
Kajura barter either, so I'm not
yeah.
sure why it's going up, where it's going to be sold at this high price for. I don't really know. I feel like you need to almost remove the barters or something, or remove some of the crafts, or
That's what I
I
was
don't
gonna
know.
say. Maybe the crafts take really long is the only thing I could like really long.
Because they did that last time, didn't they, with the water? So
Right.
maybe they were going to increase the craft lane. I'm still just like spam creating Kajuras for like one every 40 minutes. So we'll see. Um, but yeah, so there's been a few sort of bits and bobs that have been coming through in
Yeah.
terms of changes and that kind of stuff. I think that's everything's good. But yeah, was there anything else like imminent that's happened that I've missed out?
The only other thing, there was a Emissary podcast, like a 5-year anniversary or something of the program.
Ah, yes, yes.
And I watched parts of it. I like skimmed through certain parts, but I was really excited to hear Tobias speak. And he's like
Mm,
I think he's officially the community manager, and he's also like the person that's head over, like oversees all the each individual emissaries. I want to say, if I'm getting that right. So that's cool. Got to hear from him and a couple other emissaries I checked out, and yeah, that's cool.
that's nice. That's decent. I think there's a cast. I don't know whether it is just happened or whether it's on now,
Yes, that's true.
which is the other community one. But obviously, I haven't seen the takeaway from that yet, so I don't know exactly what they're going to say in that. But I think there's like a whole bunch of streamers and Nikita, so that could
Hmm.
be something interesting, and it would be good to see kind of what they ask him. I know that Gingy was putting out on Twitter saying like, anyone got any interesting questions? And no, I'm not going to ask him the same stuff everyone always asks him. So don't even bother suggesting
Fix that
those. So
desync. Yeah.
exactly. So hopefully they ask him some interesting stuff about um, maybe some of all the practicalities, because
Right.
Jesse and Veritas's one was good about like philosophy and that kind of thing. And I
Right.
hope if this one could be maybe more about the practicalities, because there's some big streamers on there and that kind of thing. So they'll have their own take. So we'll have to see what that is, because I've not seen any recap or anything of that as of yet. So we can talk about that next time, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I was tuning in a little bit and they were talking about Nikita was sort of explaining the quest, the new daily quest and whatnot, and they were asking questions about it. And then I got hit with an ad. I was like, really? Really? In the middle? I just got hit with an ad. So I was just like, okay, well, guess I'm done watching this. And
You
yeah, we'll get the footnotes for next week for sure.
indeed, indeed. So,
It's about that time.
Church, it's about that time. How has your week been?
My week's been good. So I have been playing this crazy little game called The Cycle Frontier. I don't know if you've heard about it,
I don't know.
but
Like, I don't know. Like, I might have seen it a few places. So,
yeah.
like, what? Literally, like, ever. It's quite funny actually, because it's these games kind of spring up and lots of different people play them. And something like New World has kind of appeared. I guess like one thing that I would say is, because Tarkov's kind of in a lower cycle anyway, you do often
Hmm.
get like an influx of people from EFT streamers or whatever
Yeah.
trying other stuff out, because people are kind of in that zone, like ready to like look at some other stuff, if it's
Right.
kind of interesting and might make for good content. But I think the funny thing about New World is you end up with like a lot of people, like the MMO guys, are all in there as well, and it's like a mixture of like Tarkov people, other players from other different games, and then
Yeah.
MMO guys. You look at like the cycle streaming list, and it's just the EFT list all in the top, because it's
Yeah.
basically this, because
It's
it's very similar. It's so funny, right? It's like I haven't seen, it's like
yeah.
one in every like few people, I'm just like, oh, they're from a different community, oh, this person's from a different community, oh, this person's a different community. But like
Right.
it's like right now it's like if you click into EFT on Twitch and you're just like, oh, Landmark streaming and Pestily and like Deadly, and then like it's just like the list just goes on. It's like everyone. But dude, this game is fun. I've been playing it too, so it's decent. I mean, it's a shame that they
I,
kind of cut off some of the beta keys, so not
yeah.
everybody can get in now. But I don't know. As soon as it kind of started going a little bit popular, I was like, well, it's free. You may as well just download it. Like, even if I'm not going to play it, we'll just have it
Yeah.
there ready and see, kind of thing.
Because I don't
Um,
know when you found out about it, but I found out, I think it was like Sunday night, and I didn't really, I think I saw Summit streaming it. And I was
mhm.
like, eh. And then Monday, Landmark and Summit were streaming it. And then I watched a little more and I was like, okay, let me go ahead and apply. It's like, what's the harm? And then I got
Yeah,
in the next day. And then the following, I guess, Tuesday later that day, they're like, okay, we're going to have to start limiting access, guys. And I was like, wow, I just barely slid in there. Because
yeah.
looking at the Steam charts, um, the peak is around 7,000 players. Now that's on. Now you got to remember it. This game's also on the Epic launcher as well, the Epic Game Store launcher, which
Yeah.
I don't know. I maybe there's a site out there that has charts for it, but I think it's interesting because it is a closed beta, but they are sort of like driving hype for the game through these content creators, which I like, but it is frustrating that you can't play the game that looks so fun. You're just sitting there watching your favorite streamer farming keys in chat, it's just like drops please. But it is the state of the culture, or the what's the word, the gaming industry that we're in. But they're doing the smart thing, so it's like they're really just driving this hype up for it. And as you said, all the Tarkov streamers are playing it. Saul Pestilli did a video. Deadly Slob did a video. I want to say Swamp Fox TV did a video. Maybe Jesse Kazam. I'm not too sure. I don't know if you've seen any others.
I'm not sure if he's done one yet. But yeah, quite a few people have made a video.
Right.
I have made a video that is going out tomorrow. Yeah, spoiler alert. And like honestly, like I even opened the video with like I did not expect to be making a video about this,
Yeah.
because I genuinely didn't. Like I had something else lined up. Like I actually have
Hmm.
another video lined up that I was going to release, and I actually moved it. And it was quite useful actually in some ways because it means that I've kind of given myself some space and stuff because I had a bit more time this week as well. But I was like, I just felt inspired by it to do it because as we'll go into, it's very much worth it for Tarkov players to check out because it's a bit of a breath of fresh air, and there's some interesting concepts that I think even you can enjoy both games. It's not like one game's better than the other game. They're
Right.
different enough, but
Yes.
keeping enough of the same philosophy to keep the things that make Tarkov good in the first place, to make this one fun too. And it's the same kind of risk reward and the stress of like losing your gear and whatever. Like that's kind of the same in some
Yeah.
ways. So it's yeah, I don't know. It's like that thing of everybody's made a battle royale, and now this is kind of like the time potentially of the extract game. It's
Potentially.
like
Yeah.
Showdown, Tarkov.
Right.
The new Battlefield version. There's like a few people making this kind of thing, and this one seems to be really well executed and could actually have potential depending on exactly what they do. I mean, there's one like very because we can delve into some of the things about it because I do think there's some really nice like compare and contrasting to be done, which I
Hmm.
talk about a bit in my video, which is obviously a bit more compacted than this format.
Yeah.
But one thing that I really do think that they have going for them in general is because it's like a science fiction land with made up weapons and
Right.
whatever, and like shields and stuff. It's a bit like Apex, right? You can do what
Yes.
you like. You're not hamstrung by like some sort of realism tendencies. Things kind of need to be intuitive, right? You'd still like things to be
Yeah.
intuitive,
Yeah.
but like Tarkov and BSG are always struggling with this kind of, do we want it to be realistic? Do we want it to be a good game? Like, how do we match these two things? It's quite difficult to do, and they tread that line and sometimes they get it right and sometimes they don't, and there's things that are more gamey and some things that are more realistic, and people are always
Right.
battling about it, and immersion versus realism versus blah 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 blah. You completely skip all of that because like none of it makes sense anyway because you're on some alien planet, so it doesn't even matter, which is
Yeah.
actually kind of an advantage in some sense because you can make it a more pure game. I think that's the thing. You'll never make the Tarkov experience in another game because the Tarkov experience is about having fully realistic bullets, like it could be happening right now. It's like modern day, like today. It's like 2021. With all the all the modding system that no one else is ever going to do like that. Whereas this game is just like fine, we'll take the concept and the principles, but people aren't necessarily always just going to keep wanting to play battle royales. So we'll take the Tarkov, sort of the Tarkov philosophy, and we'll take that into a more sort of arcadey format. And so that's my opinion as to why it's actually really good as kind of like a the shell and the wrapper of the game to start with before we sort of delve into the game itself.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I that was one of my first thoughts immediately too, was like, wow. Because some of the, differences between the games I was sort of picking up on, and I was like, man, they really have much more freedom with having the sci-fi spin on it, you know? I mean, there's so many routes, like, they could do, like, a fantasy, a medieval, like, there's so many different, I don't know what you call it, but settings you could put it
yeah,
in. Um, but I personally really like sci-fi in general, so and it
me too.
kinda like you said, it opens up that door. Um, the one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about Tarkov struggling with, like, this realism and immersion and simulation is I think that Tarkov would be so great on, like, a different interface, like VR or something, because they
Mm.
try to combat this by things like, and I'll be brief, your armor changes your mouse sensitivity. It has like a
Yeah,
multiplier. And if you're a really sweat lord, you could just bring up some conversion table and change it and have it be 1 to 1, like nothing change, so it's like, but if they had it in like your human body VR space, it'd be much harder to you know, to do that. But yeah, so I guess for the uninitiated, the meme is currently Space Tarkov. That's the meme right now. But why do we see the Tarkov community sort of like checking out this game and saying it has potential? Like what's going on here? Because I don't think it's Space Tarkov. I think it's like the core, almost like gameplay loop of Tarkov condensed down, boiled down, refined in a different game.
yes, yes, exactly. I think that's right because the games are quite different in some sense, right?
Mhm.
So there's kind of like what I sort of was trying to allude to before was saying that like they've taken like the philosophy from EFT
Right.
of like that game loop. I think the game loop probably is a better way to describe it because it's like you have so you start, you appear, you're in the space station, you have
Mhm.
some stuff in your stash. You then take that stuff into raid to try to loot and find other stuff and bring it back, right? It's like very similar to Tarkov in that way. And it's PvEVP, EV, PvPvE? PvPvE. This is the way that people, yeah, okay. I don't know why I put the E in the middle there. That was kind of weird. So in the same way, you take the scavs and you turn the scavs into kind of alien wildlife, and
Right.
then you're still fighting against other players. So that's kind of the same. And when the you go against like some harder enemies, which I kind of like in my head, I sort of make the association between the really hard like creatures in the cycle to the bosses in Tarkov who are
Right.
like super
Right.
difficult, and it's obviously very different because you're fighting against all people, and so the difficulty ramps up in terms of insta headshot aimbot style versus like getting airburst grenaded against like something with loads of health that's going to like charge you down but doesn't have a gun. There's like they're
Yeah,
different,
it's
they're different
different,
things,
right.
but it's the same like the enemies are harder
Philosophy.
and the harder enemies give you the higher tier stuff. Like there's kind of the broad
Yes.
philosophy. So that's kind of the same. And then you have a hideout with modules which
Mhm.
give you some income as well. It's kind of like having a Bitcoin farm, but like a really watered down version, like right from the beginning. It's very
Yes.
slow. So that's kind of like mobile gamey, which the hideout is also quite mobile gamey. You have to
Right.
check back in and it's like it's a mechanic to get people to log in every day and that kind of thing, which that's fine.
Yeah.
You reward people and also people kind of want to check in. It's like a good marketing thing. So I kind of don't blame anybody for putting that in the game. And then, I mean, what else is
You
like,
got
you're
traders in the hub.
exactly. So you've got your three factions,
Mhm.
which all have quests and they have a reputation, and the higher reputation that you get with them, you can get higher tier weapons. So all that's
Right.
very similar. And that's probably where the similarities like, and that's the thing, the philosophy of this kind of finishes. There's crafting as well, which you have to go get
Mhm.
stuff from the ground to do. But I think that's kind of like broadly in terms of the gameplay, that's kind of where the loop sort of finishes. Because after that, it's like, okay, well here's the base of the game, and then everything else can kind of different, and there's deviations and different things around it as to why they play out quite differently. I mean, there's one really key thing about um, crafting and looting, which I mean, we can go into it right now. Actually, I think probably the biggest thing about the game is that there is no flea, and people should be very interested to watch like how this works, how the gameplay works, because some content creators, me included, have been talking about hardcore for ages. Test it, see what it's like, try it, like put it
Mhm.
in ETS, whatever, right? Just see how that will play out. And this is kind of like a light way of seeing how that would feel because there is no flea. There's not really a
Right.
player trading. I think you can trade with players, but like there's no like online auctions or anything like that. It's way too early for that, so nothing's developed for it yet. So other than just like chatting with people saying, "Do you have this? Do you have this? Yeah, we can trade it in game." Then there's not really any of that yet. So you have to go and find everything to upgrade to craft weapons and stuff, to
Mhm.
put things in your modules, to hand things in for trader quests, that kind of thing. You have to go and find everything, and so that's like Tarkov hardcore, right? It's the same thing with no flea. You have to go and find literally everything, and you can't just trade. You can't trade anything for anything else outside of the game mechanics, right? You can
Right.
have as many of these optic glasses as you like, but because you don't have like the flesh of a particular critter, you can't do anything with
Exactly.
it, right? In Tarkov, you could do that conversion, except for the finding raid stuff, which is for quests it needs to be finding raid. But if you're doing
Mhm.
gun modding or buying weapons or whatever, you can trade in a huge pile of one thing for I don't know anything else, depending on how valuable that item is. So that's like the critical difference with like the economy, I suppose, because there
Right.
kind of isn't one really,
There isn't, yeah.
um, and that changes the game in quite a significant way because I
Yes.
was you also like when you go in, you're looking at your money count. And you're saying, okay, well, I've got this money, I can buy stuff. But the thing is, like, money doesn't even really matter in this game, especially not after
Yeah.
the first bit, because like most of the guns you buy at the beginning, they're not that expensive. But the good stuff
Right.
and the good attachments, whatever, like you have to make anyway, and you have to craft, and it's I don't know. It's one of those things where you to get the good attachments and the good, especially good armor, you have to go into raid and find the things to
Yeah.
make the good armor. So, and the insurance system doesn't give you items back either. It only gives you cash back.
Yeah.
But if you're running high tier stuff, it doesn't matter because then you can't go and take that cash and buy the high tier stuff anyway. So you've kind of like broken this game loop of like Chad's being able to buy everything, which was everyone's issue with Tarkov in the first place. So I think it's fascinating for Tarkov players to watch what happens and see how the game plays. Is it fun? Does it continue to be interesting, engaging? Do people want to continue going to find the stuff to get the top tier stuff? Like, is it actually engaging in the long run? I'm not sure. And this is why it's going to be really interesting because we haven't done that test properly in Tarkov in the current game stuff. I know we used to not have the flea, but the game was completely different back then and had nowhere near as much stuff. And
Didn't have the
so,
hideout back then either.
exactly. So it was quite different. And I'm very interested to see how that feels in kind of the medium term once people have kind of done all the sort of basic quests and played it a bit. And it's like, is that enough extra spice to make people just want to play the game for the game's sake rather than having to have things to do in inverted commas, which is what kind of plagues EFT a little bit.
Yeah, so a couple things there. Backing up just a little bit, it does have, an inventory looting system just like Tarkov, but extremely simplified. And there's also safe pockets, aka secure container.
Yes, good point.
And um yeah, so then the comments on the no flea market. I did see that the devs posted in their Discord that they're not going to add flea market. There will be no trading hub or whatever, which I thought was interesting because it is very that implicates a lot of things because that is sort of like an MMO element, and they
Yeah,
have like the station where you could like potentially interact with people. Like it feels very alive, and there's like traders, and you see other players walking around buying stuff. Like it kind of has that vibe. Um, but as you were saying, it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. One of the things that's sort of like on my radar is I don't know if you noticed this, but going from like the basic gear, like the basic guns, to like the very first trader gun you unlocked, because that's the thing, right? So cash you can buy essentially ammo, basic weapons and armor, and basic meds, grenades, like very basic stuff, right?
yeah,
But to get any upgrading gear in terms of armor, helmets, and backpacks, you have to craft, and also attachments like the god tier attachments are craftable only. Whereas the guns you unlock via the traders as you also do quests for them or sell stuff to them. So if you sell things, you get credits that goes to the trader, like reputation essentially, and then you unlock the next trader level. Some trader levels you unlock a new gun or med or whatever. Some you don't really unlock anything, or rather, I think you unlock more quests that can populate in
yeah,
your different quests because you have like oh, now I'm just breaking down the game, but yeah, as you like, I think level 6, you unlocked 2 options for 2 quests, so you could do the easy quest or the hard quest. And then the next tier you unlock at like level 10 or something or 12, I don't know. But circling back to the flea market thing, it's going to be interesting because one of my fears is like, s- yes, money can't buy you the best gear, but if you're the guy that's grinding day 1 to, like, purple tier gear, are you unkillable? Because if the other people if, like, the average is only at green tier gear, I don't know how green tier competes with, like, purple tier. And that's sort of my worry is that you might have a situation where it's going to feel really bad for people that can't commit as much time or maybe just are unlucky, whatever the case may be. I'm not sure how if they have sufficient tools to um sort of deal with it. Now I did some experimenting and I'm still not sure because I just don't know how it stacks up, right? But there's this gun, it's called the Bulldog, I want to say. It's like a pistol, but it's a shotgun.
shotgun
It,
pistol. Yeah, it's basically
yeah,
the
yeah.
TOS, right? Has it got like two barrel? It's like
Yeah, it
two shot.
reminds me of the, Yoka pistol from Rust. It's just like this awful shotgun pistol, but its stats look pretty good, like 65 damage. Yeah, it's super inaccurate. Yeah, you gotta be point blank, but I managed to kill someone with it, so maybe I mean, they didn't have god tier gear, but it did seem viable, and it's, like, interesting because you could sort of, like, build out these level 1 trader weapons, like, you got the Scarab, which is, like, the burst fire pistol, right? It's kinda like a decent mid-range, it's actually pretty good from what I can tell. Then you got the Scraper, I think it's called, and it's, like, a very high rate of fire, high damage, but, like, inaccurate close range SMG, but, I mean, that thing shreds, like, it
Yeah.
deletes people, I've been really surprised. And then as I said, you got that little shotgun pistol, which, I'm not sure how good it is, but if those are the tools and they're not like god tier, like, you know, ignores the high level stuff, they're very situationally good, kind of like the KS-23 and Tarkov or like flesh ammo. Then I can
Yeah.
kind of see how it maybe could work because you would have to play around the fact that you don't have the best tier. Like you could still, the odds are still stacked against you, but you still have something that's like you're not just shooting paper maches at them.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because you can imagine a situation. So there's a few things, right? It's like you can imagine a situation where you end up with like the tank style meta because
Hmm.
you don't have. Well, I'm asserting something here that I don't actually know, but like I imagine that you won't have the same kind of like variability on like rounds and pen that you do in EFT. I mean, yeah, maybe
Yeah,
snipers to pistols, that's fine, but you won't. It won't be like, oh, you can bring like the Mosin, which is you know, terrible, but it's the only thing that kills people. And also because this game is kind of like a higher time to kill game anyway. It's very difficult to be lower time to kill than EFT. One shot to the head pretty much kills anybody unless they're wearing an ult in, sort of no
right.
matter what. Um, Whereas this is not like ridiculous. Like I found Apex Legends like frankly insane when I played it a bit.
As far as like
And
a
when I played like
high time to
yeah,
kill,
and when I
yeah.
yeah, it was like ludicrous. And I don't really like the high time to kill games as much. I think be- it's funny because like I do actually think that high time to kill games reward like um accuracy more. But low time to
Yeah,
kill games reward kind of like who sees who first and positioning and that kind of thing. Because there's lots of situations in Apex where if the other person's a better shot, because you have to spend so long shooting them, it ends up just becoming like a crosshair placement competition. And
yeah.
if you're not that great a shot, you can sneak up on somebody and they can still just easily kill you because they're just way better at like targeting it like point blank or whatever, right? And so it seems to be like, I don't know, it wasn't so far, it's not been ridiculous. One thing that I think does matter, and I just don't think we know the answer to this yet, is like in EFT, if you take everything to its logical conclusion, the top tier rounds just go through everything. So what's the case in this game? If you're wearing the best armor and you're using the best weapons, is that like if you were going to compare it back to like the basic weapons, say, so two unarmed
Mhm.
guys in EFT will take like two shots to the thorax or three depending on the ammo, or like a couple of shots if there's like arms and stomach in the way or whatever. If you took that to the cycle and said like, well, the basic guns do kill people like yeah, it's just maybe like five shots or something if they're not wearing armor or something like that, 5 or 6 shots, and maybe like seven if with armor. If you took that to then the end game, like, is that about the same? Is it less? Is it way
Yeah,
more? Like, I don't
I
know,
don't
like
know.
really where that ends up scaling, and that kind of depends upon like yeah,
Right.
the scaling of the armor and the weapons themselves. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes because if it scales in the favor of armor, then yeah, you'll end up with this like tank situation where people can buy this stuff and they're like kind of unkillable. So it doesn't really matter if it's super expensive because they'll just never die, or whether it's like sometimes people complain about EFT. Well, armor doesn't really matter because so many bullets go through it and blah blah blah. Like, is it still just like a small advantage, but not enough to actually make it worth wearing? Or I don't know. Like, I think they're going to have to tweak that quite carefully because of the way that the game plays.
I will say though that playing the game, it does feel more survivally than loot shooter because I almost feel like fights, generally speaking, just aren't really worth it. Because
Mm.
let's assume that the tank style exists, okay, and the guy with like all the purple legendary gear just unkillable and he can kill anything. Then you're sort of like incentivized to work your way up to become that legendary guy. You know what I mean? Like what's in it for the legendary guy for going around killing, you know, common gear items? I mean, sure, it's fun to shoot, space cowboys or whatever pioneers, but I mean, if the you know what I mean, it's like I guess you could look through their backpack and see what they had, but it's just I don't know. So it is interesting because it is that sort of how they built it was like, okay, you want to get the legendary gear, you can't just loot anything and sell it. You have to find these specific things. And oftentimes I'm noticing that like they're tied to the mobs. And like, for example, I
Yeah.
think the purple armor is tied to like this one boss that I haven't, or like alien I haven't seen yet, which I'm assuming he's on the harder map. Um, and it's like, yeah, you gotta get, like, the rare drop from him, you know what I mean? So it's like you would have to fight potentially maybe 5, 10 of him, and already knowing from how many bullets Jeff can soak up, I don't know if you found people calling him Jeff, but that's, like, the
I've
new
seen
name.
that. I've
Yeah, I
seen that.
love
I'm
it.
not sure what's the name of the creature. What's the actual name of it? Can you is it like a
I got
crusher or something?
I got
I can't remember.
Chomper, I got Spitty Boy, and I got Jeff, that's the names.
I do love the Jeff meme. Everyone's just calling him Jeff for
Yeah.
some reason. But yeah, no, it's interesting how like that stuff is linked to, yeah, as you say, the mobs. It would be like having, I don't know, a certain attachment only spawn in on a boss. But I think this is why, yeah, this is why that you can kind of have a bit more scope in some ways to do this kind of thing. So okay, so this was like the coolest moment so far.
Mhm.
Happened to me yesterday, and I had seen somewhere that you can like mine like the meteors, if like the meteor
Yes,
bits
I saw
as
that
they're coming
too.
in. I saw that somewhere, and I think it was like it's even listed in like a tooltip, I think.
Yeah.
And yesterday there was like this huge meteor storm, like in the middle of the map, and like kind of where near where I was, and I was like dancing. I've got this like awesome set of like clips from me just like dodging out the way of all these like meteors coming in, and then me and this other guy, because there's VoIP in the game too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't realize, and somebody was chatting at me, and I rebound my key like on the fly because I didn't know where it was. And then I was speaking to this other dude, and we like split up. There's people were actually quite friendly in this one random map. I don't know why. I ended up in a group of like 4 people, and 2 of us went one way and 2 of us went the other. And this like meteor storm happened. Me and the guy are just like digging these asteroid things,
Yeah.
and took like one of the big like cores back to the base. And I was like, oh, dude, this is like this goes in like some of the really high tier stuff. But the fact that it comes in like an event kind of thing, it's like super cool that you can't just
Very
get that
cool.
stuff. Like you have to be like looking for the meteor like shower to come in and like run towards. It's almost like the drops in
Y
PUBG, with the
yes.
smoke. It's kind of like that. So I was like, this is completely uncontested, but I'm certain that this is because it's very early. No one knows what it does.
Yeah.
Nobody's really thinking about it. Like in the future, that's going to be like everyone is going to be all over it because it's the high value stuff. And I think like some of the things that they've got on the maps, like the Tarkov guys have started doing this, like the power in interchange, reserve, the alarm, various
Mhm.
buttons, like change, stuff changing things on the maps. But I think these kind of dynamic events are actually really, really neat. They make the game feel so much more alive. And I went and did
Yeah.
one of these like uplink ones. I just stumbled upon it. It wasn't part of a quest, but I had like a data drive with me. I went and did like
Yeah.
a push the data drive into the tower thing and turn it on, and it's like super loud, like really
Yeah.
obvious. I'm like, oh my god, shut up! Like what? Because I've been playing all solo as well, so I'm just there like paranoid with my scarab, which I know you mentioned before, but I think the scarab's absolutely awesome, and I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
there
good.
like, oh my god, like everybody, this thing's going boo boo at the top, and I'm like, what on earth is going on? Like, take my little thing out and just like run for my life before somebody turns up. But it's like it's super cool that kind of stuff like on the map. I think it's great, and yeah, there's parallels there for me between the two, and like things like the train and whatever. I think Reserve is a great example of that because there's
Yeah,
so much
reserve
going
for
on
sure.
Reserve. But that kind of is how, yeah, you add like dynamism to the map. Random things happen. It makes people do different stuff. It's like adds a fun element that isn't just kind of like, oh, the boss might spawn every 1 in 3 raids or something. It's a
Yeah.
bit more kind of like you can play a normal raid. Because I think that's the issue with some of the EOT like quests and some of the motivations to play. It's like, if you're hunting with Charlotte, it's kind of annoying if he's not there. Whereas you can be playing. I mean, maybe this is going to be the same, right? It's just so early days. Oh, you're going, well, I really need the meteor shower to get this thing, and then like it doesn't happen, and you go in again, it doesn't happen, you go in again. So maybe there could be a similar problem there, kind of in the long term when we get more serious about collecting certain things.
Well, see, this is the thing. So the rumor is, I don't know if it's true, but I'll just take it for what it is. Apparently, these I don't know what to call them, but raids, right? The game mode lasts for 6 hours.
Apparently so.
And that's really interesting because I was when you first play, you hit deploy. Okay, I guess I'll go use the bathroom. It's like, well, wait a minute, what's happening? I'm loading in, like, oh snap, you just get in battle position, and it's like, what? And it just kept happening. I was like loading in instantly. I'm like, and I started to think about like, how are they doing this? Like, there's no way there's this many people playing this game.
Mhm.
And yeah, after some digging, it's like, God, they did such a really smart move because that was like such a pain. Is like you load into a raid, some guy kills you, 5 seconds from running, and you're like, "Oh, not only did I lose all that gear, I have to go kit up again, I have to wait in the loading menu." Like, it's just like adding to the wound, man, digging in that wound. So now you just got like, boom, you can just load right in, and it's so cool because like you were saying with the meteors, they have these other things too with the storms, right? Have you seen the storms?
Only a bit, but I didn't. It wasn't like the proper one. I think it was kind of getting towards that, but I left. I didn't actually end up in like the
Yeah.
crazy storm.
So that happened to me, right? And I was like, okay, I guess the raid's closing. Like this is how they like stop the raid. So I got in the ship and left. And then another time it happened, and I was like, oh crap, I'm not gonna be able to make it. So I tried running. And then it got really dark and really stormy. And then all of a sudden around my character, there was like these like electricity red things forming, and then lightning just like strikes the ground. I take damage. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta run and get inside a building. So I get inside of a building. I'm sitting there for like 10 minutes, and the audio, I don't know if it's bugged or what, but it's just like so loud. The rain is just like, it's just sounds like raining hell. It sounds like it's raining hell. It's so loud, and it's just lightning like crazy. And I was like, wow, this is really cool because it's like forcing, like either you're gonna stay outside and die, you know what I mean? Or forcing you to evac, forcing you to go inside. And I wonder what's going on behind the scenes because to me it would seem like if you're gonna force everyone inside and there's not like these underground tunnels that connects everything to like the other side of the map, everyone's sort of like localized in their own little building. Are they, like, repopulating AI, spawning, loot or something? I'd be really curious to know if there was anything going on behind the curtains because you gotta think how intensive this has to be with, like, a six-hour-long raid and people just constantly coming and leaving, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
What happened to
interesting.
you? What happened to you in the building?
So after the storm, you basically sit there and lightning will strike in your area. So like it hit the top of the building and then it passes and then it says evac is now available. Cause it'll say like evac's currently closed. It gives you like a 5 minute warning and it gives you a 1 minute warning. And it's like, bro, you better be inside or that lightning's coming to get your ass. So, and then once it's over, it's really cool. My only gripe so far is that it feels like I would rather it happen more frequently, but less,
Mm,
because it
yeah.
just felt like it lasts, like it's probably 10 minutes, but it feels like an eternity. Because it's like I don't know, maybe once you, like, master it, maybe you could, like, sprint around and, like, navigate the map like it's no big deal, that lightning strike trying to kill you, but from what it seems like, it's meant to force people inside of buildings for whatever reason, which I think is cool. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. But talking about that dynamic system some more, I like you had the same experience with the data drives. I thought that was so cool, so smart, man. Like I really want to give him like a thumbs up because that was just like, wow, this is like obviously as you upgrade it, this means it's more rare, so it has more value. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm starting to put the pieces together. Like, why is this
Mhm.
thing doing this? And it's cool because, like you said, it could draw players there, and it's like a risk reward. Like it's dynamic. It it m- it gives players choices. Like, oh, I hear I need to go find 5 Strider flesh, but I also hear this thing spinning up, and this guy, and it changes colors too. So if I see it like purple or like gold, I'm like, "Oh my god, that's a gold data drive. I could go over there and yoink it from that guy." You know what I mean? It gives you that choice, man. It's really nice, and it's
Yeah.
it's great, man. It's great. I'm loving some of the it's like they took, that core loop of that gameplay loop from Tarkov, and then they took other elements from other games. It's like, okay, what's really like, worked some of the things that we really liked about this game. Um, One of the things I noticed was like the meds or the consumables. Like you hold E, and then you have like this weapon wheel, or rather this utility wheel, and you can move around, select different things, and that's like an Apex. And I think that's like a sort of a way for like I anticipate this game's going to come out on console. That's sort of my assumption because it kind of the UI looks very console friendly. Like you got 2 buttons, and then you got your, primary and secondary weapon. Like I can see it being mapped out because the wheel as well kind of fits into that in my mind. Um, But yeah, it's great, man. I like it, the weight system too. I think it feels right. I like how, you know, it's like it's simplified, but it's like it's interesting. Because you assume like you go loot this item, it's like, wow, this thing's common and it weighs 10 pounds. Like this can't be worth much, but you need it for certain stuff, you know? So it's like, yeah, it's common, doesn't sell for a lot, but it's like really good for this attachment craft that's, legendary or purple or whatever.
Yeah, because we're still
Um,
quite early stage, so it's like we still
yeah,
need the basic stuff, even if you might find like you can't just go and loot all the high value stuff because it's just like, well, you need these basic things to upgrade your hideout and to do the hand into the traders.
that's the other thing too, was like I was like, okay, so they put in the secure container, huh? They actually did it. Let's test this thing. And it's cool because in Tarkov, you have like these really unfortunate realistic situations where it's like Athletics is the rare valuable thing. It also is a one slot because this game doesn't use slots. It just operates on weight, as far
Yeah,
as I could tell. Like you you have 3 pouch slots, but you can put in like credits in there and it'll expand to 4 because they don't weigh anything. And I would assume you could just split stacks of stuff like ammo until it infinitely expands. But yeah, it was like, so the container is limited by weight. So that really changes because right off the rip, you only have 5, you can only carry 5 in your pockets. Sorry, I keep saying container, Tarkov, but you can only
yeah.
carry 5 in your pockets. So like half the common items are like these big sheet metal, steel alloy things. Like you can't put that
I'll
in
put
there,
them in
man.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, you have to
exactly.
like you and the some of the stuff I was like, "Okay, well, I could go find these flowers in the jungle that's, rare and they weigh like 1, just 1, but they're so rare to find, and the jungle is a high tier area, so there's way more mobs." The other thing is, like, the common mobs, the striders, I think they're called, the little chompy boys, they are
Yeah.
fast, man. Like, I can't outrun them, dude. I'm a hatchet runner, and then you try to hit him with your sword, and it takes away stamina. So, and
Yeah.
then if you try to hit him again when you have no stamina, the animation's all slow and off, so you messed up your timing, and then yeah, I died a couple times as a hatchet runner, but I really try to, like, see, okay, is there, like, any loose cracks here, but I think I mean, I could see, like, that was my first upgrade. I'm all over the place. Sorry, Giga. My first upgrade was the safe pockets because I'm like, yeah, that's the big value there. So I got that from 5 to 10, but you can't go past that because you have to upgrade other parts of the hideout, and
Yeah.
then you also have to upgrade the I keep calling it the hideout, but your quarters. The it's like it's kind of weird because you have to meet a certain requirement. Like you got to have level 1 and everything, and then to go on to level 2 of each individual station, like your Bitcoin farm or credits generator and workbench and whatnot, you have to upgrade the quarters itself with like its own
Yeah.
requirements. So it's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
did see
nice.
that. I haven't actually done that yet.
Me neither. I need freaking copper wires. If you know where to get copper wires, please tell me because I need them so bad, man. I need pockets level 3 ASAP. Dude.
No, I did think it was super interesting that the secure container in this game is so small, actually. Like you can hardly fit anything in
Yes,
there. It's like for, one rare value item that you might need to complete like a task or something in your hideout that you really, really
exactly.
want to save. But otherwise it's not like you're going to be keeping I don't know. It's like ammo is quite heavy, and there's like yeah, as you said, there's a lot of like basic items that are also super heavy, and so it doesn't really it doesn't really impact it too badly. It kind of like is anti-frustration mechanic rather than just like an outright profit mechanic, which makes it
Yes.
play better. It's so interesting, right? And this is exactly the thing that I was saying before that yeah, you can have mobs standing guard over areas and defeat hatchet runners because they're really fast because they're aliens, and so they don't need to be humans with guns. They don't need to be realistic. They don't need to not have like super senses or whatever, because no one's going to complain about that stuff because they're not humans, they're aliens, so
Hmm.
it's fine. Like wheeling just all the way back to what you said at the beginning, like I noticed very very early on about the whole the speed into raid thing. It was
Yeah.
so glorious when I first did that and was just like, this is insane. But like, it's such a smart idea, and I actually, it's funny that this game came out like right now because I think I've mentioned like the last couple of weeks about a DayZ style system where players go into raid, they leave raid, the maps are open, and loot respawns
Right.
in Tarkov. This is the same. This is exactly what
Yeah.
I was talking about. That is the system in this game.
Yeah.
And it plays out really well because you don't need
Yeah.
like tons of crazy matchmaking. You don't need to start a server for every time that anybody wants to join, and it doesn't need to be full or not or whatever. Like, it's much more if you want to play, it just slots you in, And I think I don't see why that wouldn't work in EFT, honestly. And it would fix a lot of the like the loot's all gone by the end of the map, but at the beginning it's all there and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's like DayZ doesn't have that issue either because DayZ is like when you log in, like there is no matchmaking, you just log into the world. And so wherever you were last, you just reappear. And yeah, it's all kind of like server based and stuff, but so it's a little bit different. But the same kind of philosophy in the loot respawns, but you don't know exactly when, and that's sort of it doesn't harm the game in that way, right? It's no less realistic having loot respawning at unknown times
Mhm.
than it is having it literally all appear at the beginning and then everyone runs in and
Right.
then it's all gone. I
Yeah.
don't think there's no like I don't think it's any better doing it the Tarkov way. So it's fascinating because yeah, the zero loading times is like amazing. Like I timed my one and it's like it's literally from the moment you press the button in the thing in the space station, like 25 seconds later you're landing on the planet. Like
Yeah.
it's outrageous. It's outrageous. And
Yeah.
how good that feels. Like I made an analogy because I do mention it in my thing.
Mhm.
I made an analogy to like, been playing for years, been playing Tarkov now for years. Before that, I was playing PUBG for years. Before that, I was playing Dota 2 for years. Like I'm conditioned to sit there in the menu for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So to be suddenly affronted with this game where it's just like, if you press that button, you're gonna be playing in 20 seconds. You better be ready. It's like quite it's quite unusual. It's pretty cool. But yeah, dude, it's wild. It's wild. It really is
Yeah.
wild. What else? What have you done in terms of like traders and like weapons so far? Because I've not really done a great deal, just because like it does take a while to like level up the traders and stuff and like go in because you can't actually carry that much. Um, and that was
Yeah.
actually something else I wanted to touch on about this weight system too, about the backpacks, because I think it's based on like how full your bag is rather than like
I think
weight
so too.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, like how yeah, so when your bag gets like close to full, you like slow down and that kind of thing. But it's intriguing because yeah, it takes a while because when you're using the basic bag, you're really quite limited on the amount of stuff that you can take with you. And so especially things that weigh like, your basic bag I think is what, 250 or 150? It's either 150 or
150.
250. I think it's 150. And some of the stuff is like 10. And as you said,
Yeah.
it's like metal sheeting and stuff, and it's like 10, and you're like, okay, well I can take, not a lot of stuff. But you've got to take your gun in anyway, and some ammo and whatever, and all that's heavy, and some stims, and that's heavy. And so you're
Yeah.
probably at 30 or 40 to begin with. And so you're like, well, I can only take like 10 items, really, of the heavy stuff anyway. So it's interesting. We'll see. But yeah, I have a feeling, and I haven't really tested this thoroughly, but I think that the weight system is based upon the bag size that you have. And
I
so the
think
bigger bag you have, the
so.
closer you get to full, the slower you get. Um, I guess we should talk a bit about movement,
Yeah.
because yeah, some people have criticized the slow walking. I saw somebody actually in chats was saying about this before, saying that um, something that hit them was the super slow walk speed. And I saw like a couple of other people like on Twitter were mentioning it as well. I like it.
I was gonna say it feels intentional. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of with you as well. I don't mind it. Like I can see why you would be frustrated because you're full and so you're moving really slow and you're like just well, I just walk normally until my stamina's up and then I sprint again. I mean, like in some cases, let's say you spawned, and this is actually probably what's an issue is that you spawn on one side of the map, like let's say A1, and your extract's like, E10 or whatever, G10, and it's like you gotta go to the opposite side of the map. So you're like, okay, well, I'll loot my way there. You go to my first building, bam, you're full. You got 10 metal alloy sheets in there. You're already full, baby. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I can kind of see that. In that case, I can kind of see that. But I'm kind of with you, man. I feel like it's okay. I think they said they might try to tweak it a bit, but I don't know. I think it's
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Because some people are talking about like the overall speed of walking, which and the thing for me, I actually don't mind because the run is quite quick. So
Yeah,
your sprinting is pretty fast, and so for me, it's like as you said, it's quite. I think it's intentional
I think
because it's
so.
like, well, you can walk, but it doesn't cost stamina, and you have to like manage your stamina. It's a bit like it's a bit like in Tarkov, right? You have to manage your
Yeah.
stamina. You can't just like be out all the time because if somebody suddenly jumps upon you, then you die because you can't run and you can't move,
Yes.
and it's very very
Yeah.
slow. And so I feel like it makes you play a bit more tactically, and like I feel like when I'm playing, and I mean it's still early days, so we'll just have to see how it goes, but I find myself doing the same things in EFT of like going, okay, well, where's next? Where's the next cover? I like sprint to the cover and then I like
Yeah.
recover round the cover and then sprint to the next cover and then like recover stam round the cover, that kind of thing. It's like the same as what I do in EFT from like point to point to point, and it feels tactical and it feels like, as you say, deliberate in terms of that speed. And I think the differentiation between the walk speed and the run speed is neat. The strafe speed is a bit slow, I will admit.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it is quite slow, and I think like when you're I think it's okay when you're ADS, but when you're not ADS, I think the strafing speed should be a bit quicker. You can like run forwards and strafe at the same time, and that's like the same speed as a run. And so that felt okay. Like once I did that, I just kind of stopped strafing and just was always doing like run strafes, which is a bit better. But I thought it was all right. Like I don't really want to play like Quake in this game or
Yeah.
Apex, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah,
Apex is also
exactly.
super fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because and we've talked about this previously. Like the slower you make the game, the more cover matters, because what matters is not the position and the distance of the cover, but the effective distance, which is also based upon your speed. If you've got an incredibly slow character, even moving from one rock to another rock is dangerous. Whereas if
hmm
you're playing Apex Legends, where you can just basically like power slide from one rock to another, then those rocks are, for all intents and purposes, closer together in terms of time because you can get from one to the other very quickly.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't mind because it does keep some of that element of like the EFT feel of like playing tactical and watching your back, and it's like it's survivally. I don't mind. I think it's fine to
That's
play into that survival type mentality.
Yeah, that's how I felt about the game. It felt more on the survival side than it did on like the shoot 'em up side. And I think, it's great you brought up Apex Legends because I feel like it kind of has some of that. Like I've seen some people look at it and say, "Oh, this looks like Apex Legends," and it's like, well, maybe a bit and like color palette, art style, whatever. But it's like it really plays more like Tarkov, especially with the movement, because it's like, yeah, you can sprint fast, but you gotta manage your stamina, and, if you got a lot of weight, I've been dropping my backpack, dude, like, it's actually felt like it's been pretty important because you drop your backpack and all of a sudden that whole weight's gone,
Yeah.
um, which I don't know if that's something they really intended, but and the other thing I've noticed too, a couple things I noticed with the movement, if you sprint forward, jump, and then do like a 9 degrees turn, you basically move pretty fast, essentially. Um, so I've been doing that, and I don't know if that's intended because technically I should be moving. It's kind of I don't know if it's an engine thing because it's on the Unreal Engine, but it's basically a trick jump in a sense. I mean, you
Hmm.
you you keep all that momentum. I don't think you
Yeah.
change directions, like you don't curve. You just keep that initial direction, but that speed that you get from that sprinting and jumping is pretty significant. The other thing I noticed go ahead.
No, I just said interesting.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed was when you reload, your speed is cut. Like, if you try to reload and sprint, it's not as fast, which I liked as well because that was all like, I was like, you're fighting a guy, right? And he's got full stamina. So he runs away, and like you said, he's quite fast when he's running away. So you gotta chase him down. I'm like, "Well, I already shot a couple shots. Let me go ahead and reload and sprint at the same speed." But that wasn't the case. So it's like, "Okay, so there's a trade-off here. I could chase this guy, and if I reload, I'm not gonna get the full speed. But if I don't reload and chase this guy, he could be waiting on a corner, and I don't have my full magazine." So I like that. Even though it was frustrating at first, I liked it in the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it because I've tried to do that classic because you basically go into this game and you
Mhm.
play the way that you play EFT, right? And that's
Right.
the what you do. And then when and
Yeah.
then when things like when the bat of the game hits you in the face and says, "No, that's not how this game works," then you change what you're doing, right? And I've been trying to
Yeah.
do the same thing, and it's like how to fight with a guy in this kind of swampy area. peeking over like the lip of one of those like big sort of flat round like mushroom platform things,
Yes.
shooting at the guy, and as soon as my clip's done, I'm like duck out the way, reload, and like try to sprint back, and then I'm going to sprint back forwards again. But I was like, oh no, my speed's like super low, so I'm like trying to get out of the way, and the guy's still firing at me, but I'm like reloading, so I can't get away that
Right.
quickly, or not as quickly as I thought I was going to be able to get away. So there's going to take
Right.
some, it's going to take some kind of like retraining, I think, just to get that in. So I'm not sure yet whether I like that or not. I don't know. I actually don't
Yeah.
know whether it's good or not yet. Um, which yeah, I mean it's just interesting, but it's funny because like yeah, people have said, oh, this look like Apex, and like I actually don't think that that's I actually don't think that that's any big criticism, to be honest with you, because I do think that it plays quite differently to Apex, as you
Hmm.
said, and it's quite blatant if you play the game that it is very different in terms of movement and all that kind of stuff. But some of the things that I didn't end up getting on with Apex kind of because of time to kill and some of the other stuff in the game. It's just not really my preference. Like the game's actually completely fine, by the way. Like it's just my personal preference is not for games like that, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But when I first played Apex, I was drawn in kind of by like it felt epic and felt really cool, and you go in with the three and you like land down and stuff. And like some of that actually I feel in this game too. You know, you go in the pod and like it feels super sick to actually like enter raid and stuff, and it's just like it feels great. And I think it looks quite good too. I actually quite enjoy the art style and it looks
Yeah.
polished and it just has like that it's cartoony, yes, in a sense, but in sometimes that like looks better in some ways than realistic, but like not done as well, even if it's like maybe less taxing on the engine because you're not like because it's an alien world or something, you're not like expecting anything necessarily. So you're not like, oh well
Right.
that looks bad or oh that looks bad. You know, it's like on they changed the shadows on Tarkov and you're just like I can see the grass like flickering in the distance, like really weird. Um but like that just wouldn't be the case in this because there isn't like, you know, a high fidelity grass or whatever is like off in the distance. It just does it's just not the way that the game and the art style is like portrayed. And so it sort of like feels nice to be in that world. Actually, I don't know. Some of the like when it's all like sunny and stuff, like it actually feels really quite like open and airy and like the fields and stuff. I actually really enjoy it. I think it's nice. I think it's
I
really
think
really
it
cool.
looks
And then
really good. Yeah.
yeah, and then combined with like the space theme as well. Like I'm a big sci-fi fan. Like people who've been following my channel, I do reference it every now and then. And I absolutely adore sci-fi, and I love the space station and like the
Yeah.
drop pod and everything. Like it feels great. I actually love the world building they've done. Like even if you look up in the station, there's like all sorts of stuff. There's like you know little like shuttles of like ships going past and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and like small details, but like it kind of enriches the world and makes it feel good. I just think there's a lot of potential for this, and lots of things they could do in the future, which I don't know whether they're in or not. But they have talked about, you know, boss raids, hard raids, you know, that kind of stuff. But they could do all the things that we've talked about before, right? About
Hmm.
like different maps with like different elements in this, you know, like an easy map, which is just like what we've played so far, a hard map, which is the
Yes.
same map, but it's like there's a special event going on or whatever. Like they could do all that in this quite easily. There's lots of
Yeah.
things they could do. And also, their Twitter game is on point. I don't know if you've been
I have.
on their Twitter, but they're like responding to everybody. They've got all the
Yeah.
memes. Like it's funny. It's funny. So they seem to be building a good community too. So like I really hope that they do well. I really do because it'd be nice to have a game like this alongside EFT. Because like right now, I feel like I just don't play anything else. Not
Hmm.
because I don't necessarily want to. I mean, I love Tarkov, but it's nice to have something to kind of like let off some steam and like play something with a few different mechanics. And you know, who knows? It might even give BSG some ideas of stuff that they can do within Tarkov. Like it may not, you know, they're not going to just like rip ideas straight off, but some
Sure.
things could
Sure.
be inspired. You know, this is
Yeah.
inspired by that, and then you know these things feed back into each other over time. And we
Yeah.
know that Nikita is always looking for other ideas, and he never wanted VoIP, but now he does. So who knows what other things could end up entering into the game um, based upon that. But even still, in the short term, it's just like, yeah, it's awesome to play. It's been super fun. Enough of the Tarkov mechanics to make it interesting, but different enough to
But also
feel
make it interesting.
fresh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the word I use when I first play. I was like, this feels fresh. It doesn't feel cheap like a clone because we've talked about the sorry, not PUBG, but the EFT mobile clones, and I'm sure
yeah.
there's some other clones from but yeah, yeah. Before we talk about sort of the potential and what sort of speculate on the game itself and where it might land in the gaming world. Was there any other gameplay mechanics you wanted to talk about and discuss?
Oh, what else? What else was there to discuss? We talked about. We talked about like the weapons. Well, we didn't really talk about weapons modding too much, but that's kind of it's fairly basic, I would say.
Yeah.
We talked about the traders. We talked about like the entry and exit mechanics. Hmm.
I guess a couple things I'll comment on while you think is, they got
Sure.
like jackets, which I love, and like safes and
Mm.
briefcase from like Tarkov inspired. And then apparently there's keys. Like I've found a
There were locked rooms. Yes, this is true.
yeah, I found a lab or sorry, not labs, a janitor
It's key.
closet. Yeah. I found a janitor's closet key. I believe it goes to the other map, which I have not played yet. Um, but and I've noticed on the starter map that there's all these different colored key. Like there's a purple colored key in this one area. There's a white one I just found on top of a tower. There's one by like the mining station in the top right portion of the map. And yeah, it's interesting because the key weighs one weight, I guess. Is it kilograms that they use for the metrics? I don't know, but
I don't
you
know.
know, yeah, you put it in your container, but I mean, again, that's one. Sorry, your safe pockets. That's one weight. And because of how the weight system is, like most of the stuff is like 10, 5, 3,
Mm.
2, 1. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I got this one, I got this three, I got this other three. Okay, I need a two. You know what I mean? To like fill up your container, you have to like sort of do these little different things. So I kind of like that because it's not just like I found a key, it goes into the key tool that's can hold a bunch of different keys. You know what I mean? It's just like an expanding container. So I like that it's
Yeah.
like I gotta like reorganize my container to like fit these things that I value. Um, but yeah, so I'm interested to see that what's the deal with that because if it's like you could find like just amazing loot in there, then it might kind of present an issue with like because you'd have to find those keys. You couldn't buy them right with money. You just it's kind of like we
Yes,
were
there's
saying
a
with
lot of
crafting.
RNG.
Yeah,
It's a bit like trying to find the
potentially.
quest keys now, you know?
Right. I'm not too sure about that, but I imagine it's more of like a perk thing. Like you found the key, you can put it in your container. You if you want, you could leave it out if not. But if you go back in the raid, you put in your container, it takes away from that storage you can hold, and now maybe you get a little bit of extra loot to potentially get out with. I don't know. Maybe it's just more containers to loot from because that's the thing, right? They have like loose loot and then containers,
Mm.
which I'm not. I guess loose loot is more static. Like I noticed some of the outskirts of the map, like the brown sandy beach,
Yeah.
the vaccine labs and the science campus has a lot of like metal stuff that's loose, a lot of
Mhm.
industrial stuff. Where it is like um, you know, there's like the woodcutter place that has like if you need wood, that's the place to go because there's just wood
So
everywhere.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which I don't even know what it's used for. If anyone knows, send me a DM because I got a plenty. I'm holding on to them. I'm like the
I know I
one day
stopped
I'll
picking it up.
yeah, yeah. I was like, well, I don't know what these are for, man. So I'm just stop looting them. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. The other thing I was gonna comment on was talking about the raids and I lost it. I don't remember. So if you got anything, go for it. I just lost it.
Okay, so the two other things that I've reminded myself of while you were speaking then
Mhm.
was one which is super quick, which is just like the OST. I just love
Oh,
the
yeah,
music in
yeah.
this game. It's
Yes.
so good. It reminds me of like Firefly, the TV show, and it reminds me of
Uh-huh.
StarCraft 2. It's that
Mhm.
kind of it's always the same. It's kind of like, like kind of scrappy kind of humanity on the outskirts of space. Like
Mhm.
anything like that with the kind of I don't know that style of like OST always just appeals to me very greatly. It reminds me a lot of StarCraft 2, which I really like. Um, and the other one, which we kind of like because we touched on it, but we didn't really go into depth with it at all, was about the extracts themselves, and about
Yeah.
how they're like sweaty AF when it turns like depending on exactly who's around, right? Because like you go near
Mhm.
the extract, you press the button, and then 1 minute later, the dropship appears like in the most obvious possible way of all time, so everybody knows where you are, And then you
Yeah,
have to
that's
sit
a
there
good
for
point.
20 seconds inside the damn or nearby and run in or whatever. Like I kind of came to the conclusion that fighting from inside the dropship is probably better because like you're protected. Like somebody could deny your entry if you weren't in it and you wanted to run in at the last minute.
Yeah.
That they could deny your entry more easily. I've figured that they're kind of defensible. I haven't like been grenaded in there or anything, so maybe that's a problem. But I haven't
Yeah.
really been like I've had a couple of scraps around the dropships, like one or two where it was like I've actually had more than one or two where I've like pressed the button because I'm in a fight and I want to leave, and then I couldn't figure out how to get to the top, and I've like been in a firefight and like run in at the very last second because I couldn't find the stairs. Because quite a lot of the time you can call them in from like quite far away, and then you're just like, wait, there's a cliff here, and then you have to like go all the way around because like the
Yeah.
zone for calling in is like slightly bigger, and I'm like, this is so intentional. This is such a tease. This is like such a meme. Like it must be. They must have known. They're like, oh, fine, we'll let them call it in here. But you have to go all the way around because there's like either a ramp or like it's at the top of a building and like there's a wall so you can't get through. And I'm like, oh my god. And there's a couple of times, like only one time where I got really like camped, where somebody was, well, not camped the wrong word, but I got stalked, I would say. So I called down the dropship, and someone was like waiting, and I saw them first, but they had better gear than me, so I couldn't fight them off. And they were between me and the ship, so I couldn't get in. And I was like, would I have been better off inside? I think you're probably better off fighting inside because all you have to do is like hold them off and not die
Yeah.
to when you're inside. Because it's kind of a cool mechanic. Like as soon as the ship leaves, I was surprised that that extract like didn't kind of disappear for you or like move or something. But you could just call the same dropship in again, so you don't really
Yeah.
lose anything. And you could even bait people, right? Call a dropship in and then wait,
Yeah.
just chill out nearby, see if anybody comes to try and like pick you off. Then you shoot them from afar and take their stuff and then leave anyway because your dropship's like you could just call another one in straight away. I don't know. I was surprised that that was a mechanic, and I almost thought that I don't know whether that might end up getting changed like later down the line to stop people
Mhm.
doing shenanigans, or at least like putting a bigger call like, oh, that dropship's not ready for like another 5 minutes now. Like you can't just instantly call the same dropship down back in
Right.
the same extract. It seemed a bit strange, so I wasn't sure about that. But like, yeah, I do like that. Again, it's like those feel like the most dangerous parts of the map to me. It's not even about like, and it's less frustrating. It's not just like extract camping. It's just like you're really obvious. It's a bit like the reserve alarm. But every single time you do it, like everybody knows you're trying to leave because the huge ship arrives. Everyone on the map can hear it. They can see where it's going, and then lands and then sits there. You have to get in. Like I think it's good because it makes you really tense to just try and leave with the stuff you've got. And I think it's a really, really fun mechanic. But I also, because of the way that it's like extracts all around the map, you don't know where anybody could be going. You can't really extract camp either. So it's kind of opportunistic.
Yes,
And
very
somebody couldn't sit
opportunistic.
there purposefully, really. Like you could sit there, but you'd be there for ages because there's so many different extracts.
That's a good
Um,
point.
so I don't think extract camping really is potentially a thing. But you could like sort of be near the edge, I guess, and just like chill out and wait. And then as
Sure.
soon as you see a dropship, you could sprint at it. But it doesn't feel quite as like gnarly as extra camping in EFT, where you can just literally sit in the bush because you know someone has to be there. Like at least you have to like run a bit to get there, so you're probably there at the same time as them, and then it maybe feels a bit more fair. They might be inside the dropship; they've kind of got cover automatically, that kind of thing. But I do know that you can steal someone else's dropship. So if someone
Yeah.
calls it in, you can just leave through theirs, even if it's not yours,
That
which is super cool.
that was my first raid. Is I was playing and I think I saw that you could potentially steal other people's extracts. And I was like, I had my shotgun, I had my pistol, and I had some loot. I'm like, dude, there's extracts coming. Let me just try it. Let me just YOLO for it. So I go in with my shotgun, I'm fighting him, and we're like fighting inside the ship. And I noticed that this ship, like, it's a really small space. And then there's these crates in the middle. So I thought maybe I'll duck behind it and I'll get cover. Well, like, you get half cover. So now only my head's shown. I'm like, okay, this is not good. So after some real shenanigans inside the ship, I kill him. I try to loot him. I get like a couple things from his backpack and then I extract it. I was like, that was so much fun, dude. That was awesome. And I
Good.
thought that I stole his extract, meaning that it's gone. You know what I mean? Like I was under assumption that your extract, like you kind of allude to, like you get one chance, you call it in, you take it. If someone else takes it, like you got to go to the other extract that you have, which I'm not sure how I feel about the system. Like I thought it would be more interesting that someone could steal your extract. Like it would be an incentive for them to go and fight. Like I see the ship coming in, you know, I have an extract over here. There's one over here. Let me steal this guy. That guy gets stolen. It sucks. He has to go to a different extract. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a fiend for some real punishment from a video game. But I thought, and it's interesting too because there's no raid timer. So like the raid never ends. So you don't have this case where you're saying like extract camping. Like, you
Mm,
know, it's like, yeah, I know that this pad with the lights is an extract. I could sit here, at a certain point because I can see the timer ticking down, whereas this game doesn't have that. So, like, yeah, I could sit here. And I'm sure eventually someone's coming along, but I don't like it's not like the last 10 minutes I start tense, I like, okay, let me close my book I'm reading. Let me get ready for this, guy coming to extract. It's a little different in that sense. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I lost my train
it
of thought
really is.
again.
No, it really is. It really is something. Yeah, that was it in terms of mechanics. I think that's a
Okay.
fun one. But dude, it's been yeah, it's been good. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun actually. It's been
Y-
exciting
Yeah,
and
so
interesting to play. Have you
kind
played all
of
solo?
I did play a little bit of group.
Okay,
I played
so I've
with
played all solo for now.
Ghost and one of his mods, which
Ah,
was fun.
okay.
It kinda you know what it kinda feels like? It feels actually pretty chill because 'cause you're just like, "Hey, what's up, guys? Let's just run around, shoot some bosses, loot here." Like, it's kind of a different experience, which, of course, that puts your guard down and you just get absolutely wrecked. We had some real shenanigans, like so the classic, like, "Is that you? Is that you?" Because we didn't realize that your character when you're in a squad, your character's teammates'
It's
silhouette.
like an outline, is there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
like a
there's a
blue
silhouette
out.
behind stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that was
So,
that is an interesting thing actually, because this is kind of comes back to what I was saying about like the game. I sort of touched on it, but didn't say anything about it, which is like the game is not a hardcore game, despite it being Tarkov like mechanics. In that there is a crosshair, there is a HUD, you have ally indicators, that this kind of thing. Like it's not hardcore in that sense. Like you can still have an extract looting permadeath, or not permadeath, but lose your loot on death kind of game without it being like hardcore like EFT. And in that way, in some ways it feels like you're almost more because like Tarkov kind of balances, like one thing that I think it does well is that Tarkov balances solo versus squad, because in squad you have to be like meticulously careful with your communication and stuff, otherwise
mhm,
it ends up being more of a hindrance than a help having more people. And there's actually quite a high skill cap on that, to be able to, because like a three-man that's working really well can just clean up in EFT, um, but you have to be talking properly and communicating well and
right.
know each other's gameplay, that kind of thing. Whereas I almost feel that like not that it's too easy in the cycle, but like it is a lot easier to do that, and I feel that that like
It's
enhances the power of the squads a lot more. I'm glad it's three cap. I thought it was five to begin with, but it is three. You're right.
yeah,
Thank goodness, to be honest, because like I just don't think I would be able to. And I actually watched a bit of Landmark playing, and he was just like, "Dude, this game is really rough. If you're playing against, like, if you find anybody who's geared in any way, and you're playing against a three man on your own, like Landmark can kill three mans no problem in EFT because of the time to kill is so low."
exactly, yeah,
Um, and this is like this where it purely comes down to kind of like time to kill and like the potential for just like one tapping people. It's just not
mhm,
here in this game. So you're kind of like limited on like mag size and that kind of stuff. And it's like it's harder when the kills are longer, slower. Like the three man gets more and more of an advantage. Like the longer that goes on for.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting one. I don't know whether the squad's maybe like a bit powerful because of that. Like you don't have to worry about like knowing where each other are and stuff. So like a lot of the issues that make it harder in Tarkov to communicate like that, the reason why so many people do play EFT solo, are kind of taken away. And so as you said, it's kind of chilled. You're like going around, with your mate, with your buddies. You like spot one guy, all right, sick him boys. You will go over and just like club the guy who's playing solo to death, and then just like take his stuff and then carry on.
well, it's I felt like it was more PvE oriented playing the squad because it's like now you could actually take on one of those big Jeff guys 'cause yeah, as a solo,
Mm,
you're doing, like, no damage,
yeah.
but you got 3 guys, it kind of like. And yeah, like you were saying, I felt I there was a 3-man. They were fighting mobs, a bunch of Jeff actually. And, I saw they were taking damage. I was like, well, let me try to pick one off. I was like, "Brah, brah." and then they all just like turn heads and just fire at me. I take damage. So of course, I didn't kill them. So I run, and they're already like voice chatting, like, "Come here, oh, you done messed up, boy. We're coming to get you now." So I'm sitting in a bush hiding, waiting for I call my evac to distract them, waiting for them to go. So I have to sit there and wait. But I was sort of like, man, it's kind of unfortunate that even let's say I did pick off that one guy, I'm probably gonna take damage. I just have 2 guns pointing at me, like, it's really hard, and sort of the way the maps are designed, I don't know. It's kinda seems difficult to pick them off one at a time. Maybe you could with, like, some utilities, like the grenades and the smokes and the gas and the audio decoy, maybe it'd be I don't know. It seems pretty hard. It does seem pretty stacked against you, and interesting enough, I believe at one point, unconfirmed, that it was all solos, but they had VoIP. So the idea was, like, you had to, like, group up for survival if you wanted to survive. So I thought that was a little more interesting. I kinda missed that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that does sound kind of cool. No, I don't know. I think it is a little stacked against, especially things
yeah,
like I think even with the basic bolt rifle, you can't one tap someone in the head
I
if they're
don't
wearing a
think
helmet,
so.
for
Yeah.
example. Which is kind of like, yeah, it's just kind of tricky because that's the thing. It's like if you're in the right position and you spot about a group of three in EFT and you've got like a scope on it or something, you can easily pick three dudes off before they can fight back properly. And that's what I mean kind of by like, positioning and tactics against like against like a crosshair placement and like aim. Because that's the thing in this, because you can't do the same damage within a short period of time as you can in like Tarkov. Yeah, in a battle 1v3, like you're gonna lose that aim fight
Mhm.
because it just doesn't make it just it's so clearly stacked against you. It's only because of the low time to kill in Tarkov that like those big squad wipes kind of work anyway. In Apex you wouldn't expect to kill like three people on your own. Not really. I mean, some
Yeah,
people who are
not
godly,
really.
but like not against other people who are like similarly matched. Whereas like in Tarkov you could genuinely kill three people who are all like as good at aiming as you are, but you just happen to be in the right place at the right time and you've spotted
Yeah,
them. They didn't spot you or they weren't paying attention or whatever, and then you can like, you head tap two guys and then it's a 1v1
right.
and you already know where the dude is, and you've still got like 28 rounds left in your Mac. There's quite a lot of these like early, maybe it's also because we're using the early starter stuff because I've been using a lot of the pistols because interestingly they do a lot of damage actually, and the triple burst one, the one you mentioned before,
Yeah,
but the Scarab is really nice, really nice gun, but it's only got what 15 rounds or something. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and so it's like by the time you've killed one guy, like there's no way you're just gonna like one tap a guy with a triple burst of it. There's just no
Right,
chance.
right.
Um, because even like even with like the M9 or something, like you can if people aren't wearing face shields, you can
Yeah.
tap people in the faces pretty easy. Um, if you get if
At
you get
the
your shot right. So I don't know, it's weird.
at the same time, though, it does feel bad to eat M61 from Jupiter, a Tarkov reference. It's just
It does.
like it it can so in this case, it's at least you get a fighting chance if assuming you have armor and you get headshot. But I don't know, maybe there's a case where you do get one tapped and anyways, but yeah,
They've
God,
removed the higher
this
tier stuff. Yeah, it does remove that like insta death thing, which is like nice. So that's the thing, like adds
it's a
frustration in some places,
trade-off.
but then removes some other frustrations elsewhere of like, yeah, you're running and then you just get one tapped and then you're just dead. So that's kind of gone
That's
because I had a couple of fights which were like we both fought each other a bit and I was just like, right, I'm leaving, and I just like left.
yeah,
And
which I kinda like, you know,
yeah, I kind of
because
like it too. And it's a bit
if
like it feels a bit more like early Tarkov, early wipe Tarkov, because people can't hit each other because the guns have got so much recoil. Like no
yeah,
one, everyone's just got like a stock AKMS with the Fallout stock, and they're using PS ammo, and it's just like going everywhere, and you might hit someone in the arm and the leg, and they're just like, we're gonna pop one of them painkillers, and I'm out of here. It feels a bit more like that than later on, where when everyone's just like spraying down each other with like 40
yeah.
and lower recoil M4s with M855, 81.
Maybe it's just because the game is so new and so fresh, but it
Mm.
does kinda bring back that early wipe survival feels where it's like, I'm not just going in to see what will happen or how many guys I can kill. I'm like, I gotta plan a mission. Like, dude, I would, I'm GG's good firefight, but I got 10 things of alloy I need for my upgrade in my hideout. You know what I mean? It's just like you cut your losses. I kind of like it. It does feel a bit more survivally.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
that's true.
man, there's so many things to talk about. But the one thing I did want to say in regards to TTK was Apex Legends. One thing that I didn't like was a lot of times, especially in season two, it was just like the war of attrition was the meta game. Like you just like you would like poke each other from like your respective buildings or defense stations, and it's just like, all right, time to heal that back up. Like it was just it. It feels like I could see in this game a squad of 3v3, it would probably be a bit more balanced, and it would be more of like, yeah, I took a sniper shot, let me get back in the cover, I'm healing. This guy on, team A was like, "Hey, I hit him with my sniper, go push him." So the other guy's throwing grenades, then they're fighting. I could see it being a little bit more war of attrition, sort of like strategic play. But as far as like 1v3 TTK, I think it's gonna be really hard, man. I think you're gonna have to cut your losses most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay,
It's rough.
I want to
Cool.
talk about quickly is what do we think the potential of this game is? Because I don't know if you knew this or not, but the game originally was sort of a back in 2019, I want to say, was sort of an originally like a battle royale esque looter shooter quest thing where
Yeah.
you got points and you ranked. That's like how you won is like your
Mhm.
points that you the objectives you accomplish in the match. Um, And so I guess the game didn't get much traction, I'm not too sure, and they sort of like, "Right, we need to, like, go back to the drawing board," and I saw in one of the devs' tweet, he actually tagged No Food After Midnight because No Food made a tweet, he was like, "I guess I'm gonna go make an ammo chart for the cycle now," and the dev was like, "Oh my god, dude, I hope you don't have to do that. We literally had to refer to your chart when we were doing our design documents for our game," which I thought was just hilarious, dude. Like the whole irony of everything. But yeah, what do you
Yeah, that's pretty
think?
good.
Does this game have staying power? Is it because I do feel like it's still a hardcore game, but it's sort of like for the masses. It's like very approachable. It's not extremely hardcore. One thing we need to talk about was the insurance. I don't know what you think of it, but they have the insurance, they have the secure container. It seems like they refined some of the things to make it more palatable, more approachable. Do you think this game has potential, like staying power? What are your thoughts?
I think it does because of the scope that they have to be able to do things that aren't possible in EFT.
Hmm.
So I think the scope and the staying power of Tarkov is like its complexity, its depth, just the way it feels, which I don't think is going to be matched by another game really. Um, and its difficulty and its sort of hardcore and like how serious it is. But I feel that this game could do because you can bring out like this. It all depends on how they do it really, and it's they. But I think there's a universe in which it can become big and something that people play for a while because it again it's sort of about content, but it's about them building content that replays that people can replay and like build the story for themselves kind of thing. Like we said before, right? You want people to be able to like make the content for themselves. And people kind of are doing that already with like the various upgrades and things. And there's that cycle of like you always want to be getting the better stuff, but because you always have to go and find it, there's always something to do to actually go and get it. I guess it's kind of the question becomes like, what do you do once you've got like all the legendary stuff? Like, well, yeah, maybe they have some kind of special maps with boss events. I could just see them like being able to do like really complicated things. So it's like you have to go here and you have to get this item and you have to go here and you have to get
Hmm.
this item and then like once you've collected all these things together, then you can like open a cave on like the hardest
Yeah,
map and in there's like an end boss and it's just like I don't know what that would do exactly, but like
I can see that. Yeah,
I can see lots of scope for things like the meteor thing just like blew my mind when it happened because I was like,
yeah,
this is just so cool. And the fact that they're doing this like now, um, there's like lots of ways that you can have like these kind of dynamic events that just feel like really neat in the game. I mean, I agree kind of at the moment that like I can see the game loop in what we have existing getting to the same place as EFT where people are like, okay, well now I know how to get all this stuff. I know how to get all the legendary stuff. I've sat on the map for 500 hours just like shooting people and not really
hmm,
looting them because like as you said, then they've all just got common items and that kind of thing or whatever. But I can just like know where all the spots are and I can kill people. Like then what? And that's kind of the same question that
yeah.
people are asking of Tarkov. Like then what? Oh well, streets. But then okay, fine, or like a new map or whatever. But yeah, you need something like self-sustaining for the game itself, but they're talking about like hard dungeons and super hard bosses and that kind of thing. So I don't think it's things like the hideout and that stuff that will be sustaining, because as we've seen in EFT, that doesn't really, once you've finished it, like there's always an end to those,
Right.
and once you've finished it, then that's it. It needs to be something within the game loop itself. By the way, I actually really love the name of the game. I don't know,
The
like whether the
cycle.
name, like it's like so perfect
Yeah,
for
yeah.
this type of game. I don't know even whether it was like as appropriate before as it is now, right? But it's like the cycle is like the game. It's just like the loop, right? It's like you go
Yeah.
in, you loot, come out. You go in, you upgrade your stuff. You go back in, you come out. You go, like it's just like it is the cycle. It's perfect. It's so good. I love it. I was like, this is amazing. When it kind of hit me that it was like so appropriately named. But yeah, it really depends on how they tackle those issues. But I feel that like just looking at the design choices they've made so far, as you said, they basically looked at like every game and said, where's the issues? Where are the problems in all these games? And how do we resolve them? How do we creatively resolve them? And what's good about these games, we'll bring them in and use those ideas to fix issues that we've seen elsewhere. Crazy loading times. Okay, well, we'll have people, cycling in and out. Um, that kind of thought process, I hope, if they continue down this path of reasoning, will get them to something that is fun and cool and interesting and has longevity. I hope so. I would like there to be another competitor out there that's fun and it's only for the good of all of us as gamers and
Yeah.
players to have something that's interesting to play long term. I don't want it to become boring, but they're gonna have to think carefully how to do it. I don't know the exact answer, but it could if they go the right way. But it also couldn't, if they don't do it the right way too.
I could see them going because the game's supposed to be free to play. Now that might change, but I'm sort of on the thought process that it will remain free to play because they're going to monetize microtransactions through cosmetics and the battle pass. And the thing about battle passes is they're sort of like seasonal things. And so if they decide, I don't know, but I could see them wiping with each new battle pass. It's like, hey guys, here's the new content. Everyone's been reset. You're gonna start the grind back up again. You're gonna start the cycle back up again, dare I say. And like, yeah, there's this new end boss, end dungeon, and it's sort of like this thing where it's like a revolving door. It's like, okay, I'll come in and check out this game for a bit, check out what's new, check out the battle pass. Maybe I'll buy it. Maybe I'll buy some skins, play some friends, we'll group up, we'll try to grind this like legendary gear to go do this thing. And then we're at in game and it's like, okay, yeah, we'll come back. And then they come back. Same thing happens again and again and again until that, that well dries eventually. I mean, all good things must come to an end. But I could see the long term model here because it is free to play, because they are sort of like, since it's free to play, they're like, "Well, we gotta, like, make our money somehow." You know what I mean? We're running a business here. So let's do the cosmetics. Well, like, that's just like a one-time thing, you gotta put out new skins. They put out new skins. People are like, "Bro, where's the content?" Like, "Fine, we'll do
Yeah.
content." Like, it sort of, like, helps feed them to keep the game going, and I think they're invested in it because they tried one thing, it possibly didn't work out. They're trying this new thing. It's possibly working out. I don't know. It's so early to tell. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, like we said, the EFT streamers are really into it. But I think I can totally see how your casual gamer could be interested in it because man, that first raid, like you get that first raid feeling and it's tense. And when you get that first evac, like, it feels so good, man. It's just like you can't replicate that feeling, and it's nice, man. And once if it since it is, in my opinion, very palatable, don't have like this like gritty, hardcore, realistic that sort of like barrier that might turn off some people. It's very open, you know, I don't know. I could see it, man. I'm kind of really interested in this company. I think they're a German dev studio. They're like a relatively small studio, but
Yeah.
I'm very like, dude, as you said, the art is impressive. Like I was surprised, like the LSS, man. I gotta have that thing on to get them extra frames because, dude, the game looks really nice, really nice.
And it runs like clockwork on my machine anyway.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. When I'm
Yeah.
streaming, it's a little iffy, but I played around some settings. I think I got it to a decent performance. So
Yeah. It's funny, man. It's just like, yeah, even thinking about things like, you were saying about wiping and that kind of stuff. But I can almost like, there's so many things that they could do, and this is the thing. There's so many things they could do. They have so much scope to do loads of stuff. Imagine this, right? They're going to introduce a
Mhm.
new map, right? And a new map. Oh, it's
Okay.
on a different world or something. But how do you get to the world? Well, you have to get to the world. There's like a special event. This is the
Okay.
cave we were talking about, right? So you have to collect the stuff,
Okay,
and then you have
special
to like
event. Yeah.
I don't know, complete the portal or something. You go through some kind of like Stargate portal or whatever. You go through, and then you're in the next like world or whatever. You can't take any of your stuff with you, so you kind of have to like rebuild. And the hideout's different.
Ooh,
There's a different tech tree, but you have to start again. So you can go back to the old world. Once you've gone through, you can go back to the old
interesting.
world, but you can't take any of your stuff with you. And so it's wipes, but it's in a different place. So maybe you have like a new stash over there. You have to like rebuild just your quarters, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was just imagining this
that's
kind of
really
like
clever.
separate thing where you wipe but you don't wipe. You know what I mean? And it's on like
Yeah,
you have like almost different accounts for different planets or something. I don't know. There was just like a random thought that came to my
that's
mind. But like,
interesting.
you couldn't ever do that in Tarkov. You see what I mean? Like, there's just no way to fit that into the way that the
Yeah,
game like. You could do it technologically, but people would be like, "Why? This doesn't make sense." Or, well, how can I get back then? Like, it doesn't matter. Whereas, like, if you've got like portals,
right,
and
right.
it's just like where everyone's just like, "Oh, everyone just accepts it."
Yeah, it's like,
It's
oh,
like
it's sci-fi? Like,
it's just
yeah.
like, yeah, it's like, oh, you can't take anything with you. Fine, it's portals.
Yeah, I know
Oh,
about
you can
time
only.
travel.
Yeah, exactly right. Whereas in the
Yeah,
EFT, it'd just be like, oh, why don't they just take the train? Oh, BSG.
yeah,
It just wouldn't really work. So there's so many things that they can do. I feel like, yeah, in some ways, Tarkov's kind of its own worst enemy because the game design and the lore kind of prohibits certain things from happening. Whereas, yeah, in this game, you can do whatever the hell you like because who is anybody to tell them that this is not how it works in the sci-fi universe or this is how it works in the sci-fi universe? It's like crazy, right? There's a lot less actually within sci-fi than um there is within kind of like a realistic hardcore military sim.
yeah. Yeah. Man, that's actually really interesting. I'd be curious. Yeah, I would love to know what's in their plans because that actually sounds pretty cool because you have the benefits, like you're saying, of the new wipe, the fresh that sort of re-chasing your tail again,
Mm,
Um, but you don't lose, it's still safe, it's still there, it's, your old progress is saved, guys, because that's, like, the thing with the wipes is, like, feels like half the people are, like, demanding a wipe, and then half the people are like, "Ugh, how dare you wipe? I just got the golden pocket watch." And it's like, "Oh, man, I feel really bad for you," but at the same time, I'm like, "I really wanna wipe," you know? So if you could keep both of those worlds, you have the best of both worlds? I don't know, that's interesting, man, that's interesting.
mm, yeah.
Cool. Alright, well, should we wrap it
Cool.
up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I think that's good. But
Yeah.
I'm having a good time with it.
Me too,
Definitely having a
man.
good time with it.
I'm excited to see the extended the the testing phase. That's great. I mean, I will
Yeah.
say performance has been okay. I don't know about you, but I've had some rubber banding. Not severe as I've seen from other people, but it's fine
Yeah,
for me.
I don't, it doesn't, it almost didn't feel like traditional rubber banding, like network lag. It felt kind of like something else where you go, like, like you get stuck on an object and kind of go, like
Yeah.
stutter on it or something. I
Yeah.
don't know if that was like, maybe it was network. I'm not sure. Like, but it seemed almost too quick. I don't know. I'm no expert, so I'm not sure. I'm just speculating.
Sure,
But
sure.
yeah, if they can iron out some of those little things, then like, and it's very small, so it's not too bad. The biggest problem that I have with the game is that in Tarkov you hardly ever jump. In this game, you jump a lot, and my jump button, my space bar is broken. And in Tarkov, it literally doesn't bother me, except for there's like a couple of jumps that I can't make anymore because it's like too
Yeah.
inconsistent. This game, you're like vaulting over stuff, climbing things, jumping constantly. I'm just like, okay, I really need to get this fixed or rebind it or something. But no, I don't know. It runs pretty well for this, but I guess it's because it was another game and now it's something else. So a lot of
Right.
these kind of technical issues have sort of already been ironed out because it was already in
Yeah.
existence for a few years in another iteration. So in some ways, we've kind of got the benefit of that, and with their beta testing the philosophy and the game design rather than like the implementation of like player movement, for example, which is nice. It's nice.
Um, yeah, and I think too, it's my hunch is it's a server issue because servers did go down a couple times, and I just suspect that they just don't have enough servers at the moment because they really weren't anticipating 8,000 players to just all
Yeah.
of a sudden log onto the servers. So it's cool, man. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this little slight divergence from our usual topics, but I personally am enjoying the game, and I think it's really interesting and such a fun topic to discuss. And maybe we can see some good old competition sort of help build BSG up in their efforts, and also, I mean, clearly were inspired by Tarkov. I mean, clearly, like it's just yeah, it's like safe pockets. You can't say it any other way. That's Tarkov, baby. You know what I'm saying? So I think
Yeah.
it's great, man, and it really speaks
Exactly.
volumes to what BSG has done. Just I mean, it's just insane because they're just some no name studio, in indie dev. Like, hey, we're gonna go make a super hyper realistic game, guys. Wish us luck. It's just yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's cool, and I think it's good for Tarkovers to watch and see. And as I said, there's a reason why there's every Tarkov streamer under the sun is playing this game because it appeals to basically all of us because it's got the same mechanics that we know and love, and
Hmm.
so it's useful to at least be aware of what's going on with it because even if you don't like this one, there's a pathway that's forming. Like I think people and studios in particular were finding it difficult to replicate what is Tarkov for for them, and rather than just like cloning it, doing something else. And this is actually done well, and it kind of like is so slowly laying that path for other games of a similar type. So it's useful, I think, for anybody who plays Tarkov and likes that gameplay to watch this space, even if you're not going to play, because it gives us insights into game design, alternate things,
Yeah,
ways the game could play out, stuff BSG could do in the future, and that kind of stuff. So I still do think, even though it's a bit of a departure, I think it's, I think it's very relevant for all of us.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I almost dare say this is like how we had there was a battle royale mod for Daisy, which was at the time an Arma 2 or Arma 3 mod. I can't keep up. There's a YouTuber named Soviet Wobble who has like a diary or like a log of all the different Daisy mods that are like I guess it's Arma mods technically, and then what sprung from that. It's just like it's crazy. But so yeah, you had like the Daisy Battle Royale mod, and you had PUBG, which was like sort of like the first big spike, and then you had the next big spike was like Fortnite. That was like the massive sort of like what brought it to like everyone. Like who doesn't know about Fortnite,
Yeah.
despite how it's such a meme, like, oh, Fortnite, Fortnite, but it's cool, man. I think it's cool, and I feel like we might see something similar, like maybe sort of like this Tarkov was like the first, this might be the second, and then something else might come along. It'll just be like the mainstream version of the Tarkov game mode or whatever you want to call it, the extraction game mode. I
Mm.
don't know. So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
cool, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Appreciate the support, and yeah, we'll catch you next week, guys. Back to some Tarkov.
Catch you later, everyone. Bye bye.